think it'd be more interesting if you played the game, but go.
Let's go with one that's kind of dead right now. A theory that kind of died. The James Bond theory.
Yeah. Why do you say it died?
Okay. So the James Bond theory is that, there's a lot of James Bond movies.
Okay, yes.
And there's a lot of different people who play James Bond.
Yes. They can't all
the idea is that they... Okay, the idea is that they aren't all playing the same character. James Bond isn't a man, it's a code name. And so the James Bond code name is passed down. And so like the idea is like, okay, you know how he's always going like, Bond, James Bond. Like, a real spy wouldn't give out his real name.
Yeah.
Would he?
No.
So if it's just a code name, maybe it's like something that strikes fear in the hearts of people or something.
Because people have heard of legends.
Of James Bond.
And that would also explain why a lot of people know, James Bond anyway, like throughout the movies, because like some people already know. Right? I thought some people know him. Okay, anyway, go on.
Anyway, so, yeah, everyone from Sean Connery on down, it is a different is a different man who gets the code name of James Bond. And there's some problems with this theory. I mean, like, I kind of like the idea because it kind of creates an entire, I like the idea of like the possibility of like, I can imagine Pierce Brosnan and like Daniel Craig teaming up in a Bond movie. But that'd be kind of weird. GoldenEye is one of my favorite. GoldenEye is one of my favorite Bond movies.
Despite Pierce Brosnan, I think he was a weak James Bond, man. Yeah, but I did like that movie.
I think GoldenEye is one of the best Bond movies.
Yeah, and I mean, actually, the funny part is, despite me not really liking Pierce Brosnan's portrayal of James Bond, because I felt like he was too much of a pansy, I actually did like a good portion of the James Bond movies that he was in. And what was is either The World Is Not Enough or Tomorrow Never Dies. There's a really hot chick in there. And that was awesome.
Tomorrow Never Dies is the one with Halle Berry.
Yeah.
World's Not Enough is the one, I think it was the...
It was a villain chick, and she was just gorgeous. Like, good God.
Okay, and there's that also is the one where, what's her name? Denise Richards plays Dr. Christmas Jones, like a nuclear scientist.
Wait, this is Tomorrow Never Dies.
No.
The World Is Not Enough.
The World Is Not Enough.
Okay,
I'm pretty sure it's yeah.
Either way, it was either Tomorrow Never Dies or The World Is Not Enough. But there was a really hot villainess, and also Denise Richards really.
It's just like
she played that.
It's like you cannot believe that she's like a nuclear physicist, and you're like,
oh God, I wonder why.
And you're like, bullshit. Bullshit. Yeah, I'm not saying that because she plays it so dumb.
Yeah.
It's like, and like, okay.
Yeah, well, see, maybe that was a brilliant commentary on society and what we view as intelligent and unintelligent, because maybe, even if she came off that way, she could have been really brilliant.
Yeah, Jordan, you're right.
I'm just bullshitting. Yeah, go on.
But
the theory, you said you like the theory and like the team up and...
Okay, and there's also, like, the name, there's a reason why there's same M's across multiple Bonds. Like the M was for, Judi Dench was with, Pierce Brosnan and Daniel Craig.
Mm.
And, the guy who played, Q was off across a lot of Bonds.
Yeah.
Until he died.
Yeah.
Yeah, and we get a new Q with,
Craig.
Yeah, because the Q of Judi Dench was with, the old Q of Judi Dench was with, James Bond, and then we get a new Q now.
And in this Q...
In Skyfall.
Yeah, and, like, while they don't say, like, any of the James Bonds are different and all that, well, this Q, he's not the same Q. I don't know if that, means anything to you, but, like, I think that is interesting. Yeah.
And, another thing is, so, like, a lot of these names, like Moneypenny, like Miss Moneypenny, who's not, remember, she refuses to tell her name until, like, the end of the movie. She's like, oh, I'm Miss Moneypenny. And so the code name for the M secretary is always Miss Moneypenny.
Mm.
But,
Well, why is the theory dead now?
Okay, because there's a couple reasons. There's one in the past, because there was a movie where James Bond gets married.
Okay, yeah.
And his wife dies at the end. And in the next movie, he's avenging that wife. Now, the problem is, they changed Bonds between those movies.
Oh, damn. Okay, so that kind of kills it.
And then Skyfall, if it wasn't already dead then, Skyfall kind of put the bullet in the head.
How so?
The Bond family estate.
Yeah.
The names on the grave, Bond. The guy, his groundskeeper knew him as Bond.
Yeah, that kind of, yeah.
Unless, there is one other explanation.
What might that be?
It's one really twisted explanation.
Go on.
That I kind of came up with myself.
Oh, I'm interested.
Okay, you notice how Judi Dench always says, in all the movies, like, orphans make, like in the recent movies, orphans make the best. Orphans make the best spies.
Yeah.
Okay, now, MI6 creates a new James Bond. And essentially, like he had parents and they died to give him a tragedy, kind of like Batman. That was like some solid Batman Beyond episode.
Yeah.
With Amanda Waller! Which kind of like be like M. But anyway.
But, just real quick, it was a Justice League episode that was starring Batman Beyond. I mean, Batman from Batman Beyond.
Okay. Okay, anyway, most people probably don't care about that, but anyway.
I think that's awesome, though.
But the idea is you notice that his groundskeeper could fight some?
Yeah, he definitely has some training.
Yeah, so anyway, my theory is that the James Bonds are, like, created through an MI6 training program. And they're sort of led to believe that they're living their own lives, and then they raised to become the new James Bond. In the agency. Now maybe this could go back to explain the marriage thing in the 60s, because maybe they brainwashed this guy into believing his wife got killed or something, so he takes over as the new James Bond. I mean, there's a way to fit this in, like if you really want to cram it into. You could still use this theory, but you really have to force it much more than you would think to at first glance.
Yeah. It's interesting, though. Well, yeah, it could work with what you said, though. Yeah.
But one thing about Skyfall that kind of pissed me off, they stole a lot from Batman.
Yeah. And then all of a sudden there's like his rich parents, and he's got a car and a secret location.
Alfred.
Yeah, pretty much. and
then he's got the Joker as a villain. The guy breaks out of prison like in The Dark Knight. He's got explosives put at perfect places. He's got a crew that worked for him for unexplained reasons.
So essentially, he's a Batman who kills. I mean,
well, you can tell they just took a lot from The Dark Knight.
Yeah, this is kind of sad.
It kind of took me out of the movie, but.
Dude, you remember that night? I don't know. I was like half there. I fell asleep, and it wasn't just because of the movie, man. I was really tired, but there were some parts of the movie where it was just like it was kind of boring.
It got slow at parts.
Yeah, and that kind of.
I know a lot of people love it,
but it's kind of overrated. I don't know. I don't think either of the sequels to Casino Royale top that one.
Yeah. I'll put Casino Royale, Skyfall. I haven't seen Quantum of Solace in a while, but. I remember the plot not being that good. But Skyfall, then Quantum of Solace. I think Quantum of Solace had less slow parts, but it kind of suffered from the fact that it was more like a sequel than a standalone James Bond movie.
Well, I mean, yeah.
And then... Okay, yeah, we're kind of getting off topic.
Well, it's bound to happen with these things. I mean, it is what it is.
Yeah, it is what it is. Okay, here, we can do this one real quick. This one's been on the web quite a lot. SpongeBob.
Oh, yeah. Oh, SpongeBob.
Okay, the idea is that the SpongeBob and all his friends like Squidward and all of them are really like products of like a nuclear testing, and essentially like because like there's hints like a Bikini Bottom, Bikini Atoll, which was a site of a nuclear testing, and when we just blew up an island.
Yeah.
Just because we're America, fuck yeah. What?
Yeah.
But yeah, suck for them.
Yeah.
Yeah, and so yeah, that's why like the sponge can talk and yeah, and
Oh, no, there's
and like the interspecies can have children
however that works. And all this other crazy insanity. I mean, there's definitely some holes with that. It is interesting though.
Yeah, I'm not a big SpongeBob fan, so I can't really go into detail with it, but that's a real quick one that if you haven't heard that one.
Yeah, and I mean, you could probably like if you were a big fan or something, you probably pick it apart. And if there, was like that was the actual case, then suddenly this marijuana fueled trip or acid fueled trip that you're taking into SpongeBob becomes a nightmare fueled one. Yeah, so that was a quick one.
Okay, The Matrix. There's a ton of Matrix fans theories. A lot of them are like weird philosophical stuff, and I don't want to really get into those.
Yeah, because I don't know. It's like The Matrix is this revolutionary thing once upon a time. I mean, seriously, the first one, like back when I saw it, it was interesting. And then it became all about these pretentious philosophical waxings and orgies. I mean, that's what it became. And then it got more Dragon Ball Z like towards the end there.
I maintain that the plot where it's like they're the reason they keep humans in the containers is for energy sources, which
like
is
batteries.
just stupid.
Yeah.
But
they're inefficient.
but like I prefer the idea that they use them for processing power, like the brain is like a computer, because like the brain can do like quadrillions of calculations and stuff. So it would make more sense if they use them as biological computers to run different stuff.
Which would be incredibly dark, interesting, and far more practical than what they're doing.
Yeah. You basically using a super efficient biological computer to do your stuff. And the Matrix is kind of like would be like the operating system or something.
Yeah.
Anyway.
How about that?
I run Matrix. I can imagine I'm a Matrix and I'm a PC like type commercials in the robot universe, but
oh god, that'll go horribly.
Okay, but I guess a theory I want to talk about is the idea that there's the Matrix is actually a matrix within a matrix.
So, is it like a block matrix? Or is it like a tensor? It's a little math joke, people. Go on there.
Anyway, that's, if you know it's not a good math joke.
It's a good math joke. Don't hate it.
Anyway.
Come on.
So it'd be like there's a secondary level matrix where, which would be there's a top level matrix that the real world within the world of the matrix is actually within. And either the robots or either the machines or the humans are running this top level matrix. With the idea being that either the humans or the machines would be fighting this war of the humans and machines. And they would think they'd be aware of the matrix, and so they wouldn't be looking for another matrix. So that's why they would have to have a matrix within a matrix. And it would go to explain why in certain scenes, Neo's able to use his powers within the real world. And that's because he's still, even when he's in the real world, he's still on a computer program. And he just doesn't know it. And neither do the machines. So it'd be like either like the humans have created this top level matrix so that the machines don't rebel because they think they're in control and that they're actually putting the humans in the matrix when they themselves are actually in a matrix.
Dun dun dun.
Or the humans think they're or even machines have another top level matrix, so the humans think they're aware of the matrix, and they don't think that they themselves, they don't think to look for another top level matrix when they're in the real world.
Yeah, I like that one a little bit more.
But yeah. I mean, like, that one could work because
they could have figured that people would have rebelled, so they could have had some, counter program for when they rebelled, so that it made them think that their rebellion would be successful. And even though they'd be in a crummier world in their eyes, they would have been in a world where they freed themselves from, their robotic overlords.
Because isn't there also like a thing where like Agent Smith infects someone's real body in the real world or something?
Yeah, and the third one, right?
Yeah, so that might explain how that's possible.
Because it couldn't be possible, like, if it was like something that's based on like a reality similar to ours, It doesn't make sense.
It could work, maybe in theory. I don't.
No. Well, I mean, unless
okay,
it would have to be one of your theories here that worked.
Okay, well, there are tests where guys have been able to control like a rat's tail using their thoughts. I think I've seen like video of that. Yeah, you're looking at me like I'm crazy.
There's a reason for that. But
Yeah, I mean they've been put chips in like certain bugs and they've been able to fly them around. Not well, mind you, but
that's different.
It's just so it shows you that it's possible, maybe.
But that's different from what happened.
If they could figure out how the neurons work, you could possibly like override them or something. Like, okay, anyway, we don't know how like neurobiology works, and there's a large mystery of that, so that leaves it open for it to be possible.
But how did he get into the real world, though?
I don't remember that plot point. Like how I think he infected the guy when he was in the Matrix. So his brain was hooked up to the connector on his head back there. But I don't understand how it works.
And they do have the connector, so I mean, there's got to be some stuff going on with that. So okay, fair enough.
Yeah, it's a I feel I only really watched the second, and third ones like once, so I really don't like. I don't really talk about this one because that one there's a scene where he had there's a scene at the end of the first one, right, where he stops them, right?
In the real world?
Didn't he? Isn't there a scene?
No, I thought that was in a later movie.
Maybe.
I don't think it was till the third that he's able to use his powers in the real world. Right? I don't know. Maybe it's been a while.
Okay, but anyway, that's the Matrix theory. I have the theory about how I Met Your Mother that we talked about the other day, but I don't know if you want to get into that.
You could get into that, and then I'll briefly talk about the Dragon Ball Z one. I don't know if you wanted to do anything after that.
Yeah, we've had good discussion so far, so yeah, I think that will cover it.
Okay, so we'll just do those two. You can go ahead and start the one that you want.
Well, like, I'm not sure when I'm gonna put this up, but as of now, the most recent episode of How I Met Your Mother was the one where Ted, at the end, he imagines himself going to the mother's apartment, and he does this whole monologue where he's like, "Oh, if I only had 45 more days, if I only met you 45 days earlier, etc., etc." And it's kind of like sappy speech, and you kind of get the feeling that like something bad happened in the future, and he wished he had more time with the mother. And so my theory was that in the future, Ted is dead, and that it's not him narrating the show, but it's really like somebody in the future is like reading his diary entries or something like that. And my theory is like it's his son in the future, which would explain why it's a different person. It would explain why there's a different person narrating the show, and also the son would be imagining while he's reading this diary, like it being like his father telling him this tale while he's on the couch. So that's why it's set up like it is. That's my theory. And like he's either Ted's did or the mother's did or something in the future like that.
Certainly interesting to take that show in a much darker direction. And actually, I mean, I'm not gonna lie, I would like that better than where it's headed, because I mean, they killed the whole thing with like, oh, it has to be the mother. I mean, they needed a gimmick to get on the air, and since it's been on the air, it's become more like Seinfeld or Friends, something like that. And I mean, I think that setup is fine, but they keep on trying to drive that point home with the mother. But at the same time, I'm like, they could have done that and they could have executed it a lot better. Because right now, we don't have any reason to give a fuck about who the mother actually is. And we don't have any reason to be invested. So I think this would be an interesting turn on that.
Yeah, well, How I Met Your Mother is one of the more interesting sitcoms because they're willing to play with time in the traditional sitcom format a lot. So I thought that might be a possibility where they're playing with. They like to play with time and your expectations.
Yeah, and speaking of that episode, fuck it, I'm just gonna explain it. The episode that he had mentioned where like Ted eventually talks about wanting to spend more time and had he gone to his wife's apartment sooner, this is what he would have said, and all this other nonsense. Like the whole episode is about Ted and where he is in his life, and he converses back and forth with like Barney, and they're talking to their future selves, like their future selves from 20 years from now, and their future selves 20 minutes from now, and their future selves like 20 hours from now, stuff like that. And it's interesting. They play that game a lot. And for that whole theory, I mean, I think that could also, and maybe I'm stressing it here, like explain the whole like need to at times talk about it being like an unreliable narration. Because if you notice, like sometimes when he's telling the story, he's like, oh yeah, maybe this happened, maybe that didn't happen. And he's talking about how, he's not exactly reliable with that.
Yeah.
And I think that could be either just like maybe some parts he was adding, the narrator is adding into the story because they weren't there, or they just simply don't actually believe what happened because maybe Ted writing his diary just wanted to add in stuff, make himself look cool or this, and maybe he just thought like, oh, maybe that's just not believable. I don't know. Maybe stretching it.
Yeah. So you got something you want to talk about?
Yeah. I mean, it's one of those things where I wish I actually found more fan theories on, but a couple of like Dragon Ball things, and yeah, one of them.
I know you love your Dragon Ball.
God, who doesn't? Okay.
Who doesn't?
Actually, yeah, there's some people out there, but there are two things. I mean, there's a couple things. There's one, like, there's a lot about the Blue Saga that I find, and then there is another thing, and you're not gonna like it because it's GT related, but it's just about the nonsense that goes along with that in general. But like, so one of the things is there is a theory about Gohan. There's so much not to say and to say about it, I guess. I don't know. But there's a theory like in the Buu Saga, and Gohan goes to his ultimate form, with his hidden power unleashed, which is a whole nother story. Some people thought that he can't go Super Saiyan, or that Super Saiyan form would be weaker, but because they said his new form is different. But when he's in this form, he doesn't like revert back or anything, and I feel like he still would be able to go Super Saiyan. There's just like not a need. And when he's fighting Boo, he's like smashing him, and then later on, when he eventually started to lose, it was because Boo like took advantage of the situation and tricked him, and he got to fight the new form. There wasn't really any time to transform. It was like a pretty merciless fight. Like so I mean, I don't know if it was like a whole he wasn't able to or he didn't want to, because I mean, later on GT, you can't count anything that happens with that. But, yeah, so some people think that this new form, he can't. Some people think that he can and it wouldn't matter. I'm personally of the whole thing that it didn't come up.
Or maybe he's just approaching the new Super... In the new movie, there's supposed to be a new form, Super Saiyan God mode. And, if you look at the picture of it, he's like in normal state. He's like in normal state. So he has like red hair and stuff. So like, you can imagine like if he's approaching Super Saiyan God mode, then he the closest state to that would be like his normal state maybe. And then like if he just goes a little further, he would have the red hair. But
I don't know, because that whole design is like a lot different, but...
We haven't
and
seen
also,
the movie yet, so I don't know.
No, we haven't, but like we've seen the design, but I mean, and you don't know like the method, but I do, and so if he wasn't to approach that, it would have to be a weird thing on his own, because the way they describe it in the movie, from what I gather, is that it takes, 6 Saiyans combining their power into one, and they're using the power from the other Saiyans to reach some new enlightened state or some bullshit, because they asked the Eternal Dragon, from what I understand.
Well, Goku reached it. I'm going to reach the enlightened state.
Yeah,
Kind
he
of.
did. So, like, I mean, if he was approaching something like a Super Saiyan God, it would just be because, like, he's an awesome character and he would be approaching it that way.
Yeah, well, I'm saying maybe he faces limitations and that he couldn't go that without other Saiyans assisting him.
Yeah, I'm really unclear on, like, the full depths of it, but maybe that is the case and that is as close as you can get without it. Or maybe it's a Super Saiyan God without the other beings. I don't know. It's just like, it's never really... There's not like a lot of evidence before or against, but like you brought up the Super Saiyan God, and it's like something that he clearly, you know, went back into in a kind of different way, because Goku, when he goes Super Saiyan God, his hair is closer to the normal state, albeit a little different, but close to that, and it's just red. And so I don't know.
Yeah, I really don't know that much about what to do with this one.
Yeah, so I don't know about that one. Then there was another theory, actually several theories on the whole Trunks and Goten going Super Saiyan. Oh my fucking god. Ugh. Yeah,
okay, so like, quick explanation. Right during the during the Sandman's arc, saga or whatever, essentially, like, how old are they?
I believe Trunks was 8 and Goten was 7.
They're able to achieve Super Saiyan at 7 or 8 without anyone helping them out or being forced into a desperate situation. They're able to go Super Saiyan naturally. And even though all the other characters had to go through ridiculous either like training or extreme measures or face like close certain death to achieve it. And so that pissed off a lot of fans because it felt like they didn't deserve to be able to go Super Saiyan. Sounds weird, but it's just like one of those things, like imagine if you saw a character, like all the other characters were training and they became like imagine like, I don't know how to put it.
Yeah, I mean, I think that puts it fine. I mean, you know, you're talking about characters that you grew up with, characters you got to know. You watched each and every one of those characters work towards some goal, meet some qualifications to reach that goal.
And then just some random person.
Random characters, and they just get it with ease. And it neglects anything valuable about that transformation in the first place. And in this case, it's just like everyone earned it. Goku had to watch his best friend die before he got angry enough to transform. Vegeta, he had to get to a point where he had to get so angry that he couldn't compete with someone that he considered low class. He had to just say fuck it all and transform. Gohan had to imagine all of his family and friends dying because he couldn't protect them because none of them could protect themselves. And he had a lot of pressure on him to be the one to do it, or at least be able to participate in a fight at a decent level. And he had to transform that way. Trunks, the future version of Trunks from a different universe, he had to watch his mentor, future Gohan, die. So there's usually some death, some anger, some desperation involved in these situations, and you just have these kids doing it for no apparent reason, and it takes away a lot from Gohan, I feel, because he was always that kid that could keep up with adults, because he had to work for it. They didn't. They were just fucking born that way. Okay, so, and then they didn't do anything useful. But,
So what's your theory about why they're...
Not so much my theory. I just think I personally just think that it wasn't that well explained. They didn't think about it much.
But it was just like a writer decided to do it.
Yeah. Yeah. And a lot of people, and I can't really agree with it. I mean, they think that this is a genetics thing, and that somehow being a Super Saiyan at time of birth affects, whether or not you're a Super Saiyan.
It may be also like Dragon Ball Z, they have that weird key thing. Like, it may be like a spiritual power, like a more like spiritual power passed on in a sense, and may not have to do with genetics necessarily.
Maybe. But at the same time, like, I mean, people say that theory, but I don't feel like there's a necessary strong basis for it. Because Vegeta in the alternate timeline, if I'm not mistaken, was a Super Saiyan when Trunks was born in that timeline. and Future Trunks didn't become a Super Saiyan until 14. And then, there's a lot of issues with whether or not women can become Super Saiyans or not, but Pan, she didn't become a Super Saiyan early, and you just can't count GT for anything with that, but yeah. So she didn't, and she was pretty powerful.
This just seems like I think it's just some,
just
probably just ignore.
Yeah, I don't think it was that well thought out, and I think people try to make it work, and I don't think they should try to make it work. It was a shitty thing to do. And it showed, and that actually does lead to another theory that I made, but before that, there was one in GT, and it just like, I saw it the other day, and it's just like, there's so much stupid involved in GT, and it's the whole Goku Jr. thing, because they said that he's Pan's grandson, and I don't think it could work that way. She's over 100 years older than him. I think there had to be a couple more generations in there. And there's also like, there's also like some text, like, some subtitles that suggested that he was her actual, like, her great-great-grandson, which would make a lot more sense. And it would mean that he's not Goku's great-great-grandson. In either case, calling him Goku Jr. is just stupid unless his father was named Goku, in which case you don't know anything about it. Because even if he was named after him, it still sounds stupid. Anyway, enough GT. I, had a theory of my own, and I say it jokingly half the time, but the more I have thought about it, the more I think it might be slightly true, and I'm not saying it absolutely is, of course. And it's this. I think the Boo Saga, there's a couple of things that it could be. It could either just be a really bad acid trip, a just giant fuck you to everybody, or it's like, Akira Toriyama's first, steps into self-parody.
Didn't we talk about this kind of? Did we kind of talk about this before?
Oh, damn it. Yeah, maybe another Dragon Ball Z thing.
I mean, you can talk about this again.
Yeah, I mean, maybe I talked about it or mentioned it briefly, but if I didn't already give more depth into it, like, so here's the thing with the Boo Saga. So, the way these Dragon Ball Z work, I mean, like, Dragon Ball, it had its own weird brand of comedy, and it had some fair share of serious moments, and same with Dragon Ball Z. Now, the writer, he's originally a comedy writer in the first place, so he does his own little stuff. Now, when he started Boo Saga, at this point, he's just writing, even though he said he wanted to stop a while back.
He originally wrote for Family Guy, right?
Oh, yeah, clearly. I mean, that's where Seth MacFarlane got all the humor there. But no, he wrote a manga called Dr. Slump. And Dr. Slump was definitely more comedy, and he has a bad habit of, like, incorporating, other characters or likenesses into his other works, and it shows, like, some characters from Dr. Slump. You see some familiarity in Dragon Ball Z, and, I mean, the art style, of course, is going to be the same, but, anyway, I felt like with the Boo Saga, he actually had good intentions at first. Now, I think the Great Saiyaman is just one of the worst creations he had, but I like the concept behind it, and I don't get why he had to do it that way, because, but basically, Gohan, at this point, he's pretty much an adult, he's a teenager going into adulthood, and unlike most of the other Z fighters, he starts fighting crime on a local scale, and he disguises as the Golden Fighter, and I don't think there's anything wrong with that, but he felt like he had to further color his identity by creating the Great Saiyaman persona. Anyway, for the most part, like after the Cell Saga, you have that whole Great Saiyaman arc, and I actually think it was interesting because it showed a different side of Dragon Ball Z. It showed him using his powers actually to help people, not just. Well, I mean, they help people when they take on the big people, but sometimes they're just out for a challenge. And he's clearly trying to help the people on a local scale, not just in these dire times. And you need to help them too. And so during this, I think a lot of people didn't really like that, and so he did get a lot of complaints, and there wasn't Goku during this part. Like, it was a shit ton of Dragon Ball Z episodes without Goku in it. It was focused on Gohan. He was the main character at this point. Yeah. And a lot of people bitched, a lot of people moaned, and he caved in. I mean, he's got bills to pay, so I understand. And I just wish he had won about it in a different way. And so I feel like on some level he did kind of say, fuck you, but he's also...
Pimpin' ain't easy.
Huh?
Pimpin' ain't easy.
It ain't. Well, on some level I feel like he fucked you, but I also feel like there's a different thing going on here. I felt like he's like, okay, they want Goku, because I mean, I feel like he felt like he had done all he could with Goku at that point, at that time. He's like, you want Goku? Okay, I'm going to give you more Goku, and hence Goten comes into the picture, and then that still wasn't enough. People still bitched him on. He's like, okay, I'm going to give you Goku. I'm going to give you everything that you love about Dragon Ball Z, and I'm also going to give you all the silly shit that I kind of try to stay away from. And I'm going to give you that in a very, very serious manner and just have fun with it. And then you enter Boo, just one of the most retarded comical villains. Like, it's supposed to be a very, very serious story, but it looks like chewed up bubblegum. And so I feel like throughout that, there's so many things that a lot of people criticize Dragon Ball Z on that he was doing, because at this point he has to write. People bitched about what he was doing, so he's like, I'm just gonna write, and I'm gonna do all the shitty things you picked on Dragon Ball Z for, and I'm still gonna get paid. And later on, I feel like my theory is supported because he creates an outright self-parody called Neko Majin Z, where, there's this it's a Saiyan and a cat creature, and he's going around on all these Goku-esque adventures, and he even meets some characters from Dragon Ball Z. And so I felt like the Buu Saga was him experimenting with that. And eventually he said fuck it, and he went through it. So that's what I think about that. And I mean, there's some good and some bad that came out of it, but I think a lot of that was just him doing his thing and kind of saying fuck you to everybody. I'm going to have some fun with this. Yeah.
Alright, I think that's it for what we have right now.
Yeah.
We might do more fan theories in the future if we come across a decent amount in the future. But I'm Cameron.
And I'm Jordan.
And this is Crash the Mood.
Yes, it is.